Well, greetings, everyone. Greetings, greetings, greetings. This is exciting. I'm excited. Okay, let me calm down so I don't drive people away with my enthusiasm. So, welcome to the Roost News, the place where volunteers come to meet and the place for all things volunteer. So, we have two guests today for our Roost podcast, Cristina, Anastasio, and Hank Povinelli. And I will let each of them speak, introduce themselves, and give you their official title, lest I manage to fudge it. So, Cristina, I will want to start with you, but before we even get started, do tell us a little bit, well, certainly identify your respective titles. Hank, I believe you are a volunteer
Yes.
like me. And
Yes.
Cristina, I believe that you have been with AARP for more than a minute. So give us a little background on that. And then just tell us about your roles and your respective positions. And I'll let you begin, Cristina.
Thank you, Constance. We're so happy to be here today. So yes, my name's Cristina Anastasio, and I am the Volunteer Engagement Manager and advisor for the Large and West regions for the Office of Volunteer Engagement. But I'm here to talk about my other hat under Office of Volunteer Engagement, which is the staff partner to our DIY work group. So I work with Hank, my volunteer partner, and wonderful volunteers and staff from across the country to help states support and sustain speakers bureaus and DIY programs. And so I've been with ARP for about 5 years. I just hit my 5-year anniversary. And prior to my 1 year in OVE, I was with the New Jersey State Office and worked as their staff partner to their Speakers Bureau program for the 4 years that I was there. So some concrete on the ground experience in state work around DIY, and then now with my other hat on at Office of Volunteer Engagement.
Wonderful. Wow, that's a lot. That is a lot. Incredible. So did you need to relocate? You said New Jersey. Where are you physically located now? What state?
Oh, I telework from New Jersey, so I haven't had to move too much.
Wonderful. So you didn't have to physically relocate. Okay, that helps tremendously. Absolutely. I'm happy this has nothing to do with this broadcast, just because I'm so proud of them. But my son and daughter-in-law live in New Jersey.
Beautiful. It's a great state. We get a bad rap, but it's a great state.
I noticed that when I visited, and I'm looking forward to seeing them again in a couple of months. And you're right. It has over the decades gotten a bad rap, and it's not justified, I think.
Or the best kept secret, as we like to say.
I think you're right. Well, you'll be happy to know that on the radio, I do hear really good vacation ads for the state of New Jersey. And I hear them right here in the DC metropolitan area. So I want you to know that it's changing. It's changing. So Hank, tell us something about you and your volunteer activities and your role.
Sure. So I am happily retired from a career in IT management and started my volunteer roles with AARP when I lived in California 12 years ago. So I've been a volunteer with AARP for the past 12 years. Leaving California, I moved to South Carolina, and AARP found me there. And so I started volunteering again there with South Carolina, was part of their executive council member, and most recently have relocated once again to Florida. So unlike Cristina, I've lived all over the country. And because I started my life in New York. So, although you can't tell because I have no New York accent left, I'm sure.
You don't.
Well,
it's true.
It'll come out soon, trust me. But so I'm here in Southern California. I'm in Southern Florida now. And my role with AARP, I've got several, but for DWG, I am the volunteer leader of the DWG team. Also work with Will Stoner on his VFIT team, and I'm a veteran, so I'm on the volunteer virtual veterans brigade, and a couple of other things that I do. But AARP definitely keeps me busy.
Wow, thank you so much, Hank. Thank both of you, Christina and Hank, for all that you do. As a fellow volunteer, I know it ain't always easy. And I'm purposefully using the word that my mother would not allow me to say when I was a little girl, but I know it just ain't always easy. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I know that you both are doing much needed service. And Hank, you ended with a good way for us to segue into asking, tell us more. We can see that DWG definitely stands for DIY Work Group, but help our listeners understand what that acronym is and exactly what it stands for. How did you come to arrive at that particular words to come up with that acronym?
Well, fortunately, I arrived after the acronym was created. So Christina's probably closer to the creation of the team. I joined shortly after that team existed. But real quick, I mean, DIY is do it yourself. It's in reference to offerings that AARP has for states to do speaker engagements where they're doing specific presentations on various subjects, things like fraud, Social Security, those brain health, for example, and these are vetted programs that have PowerPoint to them, have other handout type information. We call them kits, so it's DIY kit, and it's available to every state who would like to do a presentation. What we've discovered over the years is that just because someone says, yes, I'd love to do a presentation, doesn't mean that they're good at it yet. Doesn't mean that they're a seasoned or a polished speaker. And trust me when I say that, because it took me a long time to polish that up a little bit, at least. And so it takes time, it takes skills, it takes training and practice to become a good speaker. And so part of the role of DWG is to help states train and support their speaker bureaus. Christina, dive in.
No, you covered it beautifully, Hank. I think, the key piece there and what we do at the DIY work group is we do that training, support, highlighting best practices, demonstrating, but we don't create the curriculum. The curriculum, as Hank said, is pre-created and by our turnkey programs team. And whether you're seeing a presentation in California or New York, it will be the same AARP presentation, maybe with a little flavor from that speaker, which is what we help train on. But it's all the same curriculum, but we help do the training, support, sharing of best practices nationwide.
Thank you. Wow. Well, I get it. As a professional trainer, I'm still learning, and I never take it for granted that I've totally arrived, that I've got the speaking skills that my mother always told me I had. Mothers have a way of not quite telling the truth sometimes. So I really do get it, and it is an ongoing process, and things change. Now, one of the questions that popped into my head as you were talking, though, is are you either of you active in actually doing the kits, like putting together the slide presentation and doing the research to do the PowerPoints or the slide presentations, or whichever kit you're sending out to a state?
So understand that the kit, as you call it, is created by our turnkey programs team. And the reason for that is that they are the ones that gather the information, validate all of the details that are included in the various presentations, make sure that the branding is correct, the AARP message is clear, and then that kit is turned over to to us, to the users, and usually accessed through the volunteer portal. Now, the speaker has flexibility in how they can add their own personal stories as part of the presentation. They can include specific information that's relative to that particular state or community. So they have that flexibility, but they can't change the actual presentation on purpose, because we want to make sure we're delivering that message, the correct message every time, everywhere.
I like that.
Absolutely. And the beautiful thing about that is that you don't have to be a topic expert to deliver any of the presentations. So, you know, whether you're new staff, seasoned volunteer, new volunteer, anyone can pick up these, any AARP volunteer staff can pick up these DIY toolkits, the presentation, and deliver it in community. You don't have to be a brain health expert to deliver brain health, because all that research has been done previously by our turnkey programs, as Hank said.
This is exciting news. Thank you. Thank you. I didn't quite know where the PowerPoints originated from, so I've learned something. So that kind of brings me to another question, though. I do understand that you are not currently recruiting for this particular work group. Does that also mean that on each state level that the states are not recruiting as well for the Speakers Bureau, or do I have that not quite correct?
So we actually just wrapped up a little bit of a recruitment effort for our DIY work group earlier this year and got a few new members. We're now, I think, Hank, are we at 22 or 24 volunteers and staff, 3 staff, and the other 19 are volunteers that support our DIY work group and the work we do in the states. That is not to say that every state doesn't have a speaker program. If your state has a speaker program, I would reach out to your associate state directors of outreach and see, you know, what's available in your state. If they're looking to engage in DIYs, it would be dependent on the state level. Some states have formal speakers bureau or presentation teams or education teams. They all call them different things. Or some just want to support 1 or 2 volunteers doing DIY presentations in their community. So it's really state dependent on each state and what that state's priorities are right now.
Okay, I like that. I like the flexibility of that. It just makes a lot of sense. Now, I'm still a little curious about how this whole idea even came up to do this. Any thoughts?
I mean, it probably came out of necessity, as with most things at AARP. You know, the individual states, and I'll use my example, for example, in California, and when I worked as a volunteer, I was one of 2 speakers. So there were only 2 of us covering the state of California, which of course was right. So obviously we didn't do very much presenting outside of the little area that I happen to live in, which is the LA area. In South Carolina, it was kind of the same thing. I was one of maybe 2 or 3 speakers that did some presentations, but it wasn't very formal. It was in response to a specific request that the state may have received. So what happened was, as the state started to receive requests from AARP presence, especially as we started to focus on community development, it became obvious that the states needed help with both either creating a speakers team, a presentation team, or an education team. You know, we use all 3 terms, and or they needed help with even getting some of the speakers that had raised their hands being able to deliver the message correctly, comfortably, and with the right skill set. As you know, Constance, because I know you do presentations, you know, if you think about the kit, right? So the kit has a PowerPoint as the lead-in to the presentation. That's the guide that they use for the presentation. Well, you know, speaking for myself, if I'm doing a presentation, it's kind of hard for me to drive the PowerPoint at the same time. So I'm looking for extra team members that may not want to help in front of the stage, but want to help behind the stage. They may not be comfortable to do a presentation to a group, but they like the idea of being able to support that presentation, whether it be technology, running PowerPoints, manning a table during a presentation, things of that nature. Maybe audience participation, helping to get the audience to be engaged. So as we started to realize that, as the state started to realize that, they reached out to, quite frankly, OVE and said, hey, we need help to develop these to recruit these volunteers, help develop them, and make our presentations successful.
Wow. I'm so happy you included that, Hank, because it really does let our volunteers who are listening to this and other staff members recognize that there are many, many roles that one could play in different areas, and perhaps maybe not even an area that had been on their radar. Thinking that, well, I'm not a speaker. I don't want to stand in front of people. Oh, no, I can't do that. But you just pointed out all the ways that someone who doesn't want to be in front of the audience could be most helpful. Thank you. Christine, it looked like you were going to add something to that.
No, I was just going to emphasize Hank's product of necessity is why we came around. There were states that were already doing this really well. And the recognition that these assets are somewhat underutilized, and they are wonderful for getting out in community and getting local volunteers in their own communities delivering presentations. So there was a melding of the minds to get together some process and what would be most helpful for creating kind of sub-teams under the DIY work group. Like I said earlier, we have a team that does demonstrations. They record themselves doing the presentations, upload them onto the volunteer portal. So there's examples. There's a training and support team that goes out and actually does that training that Hank was saying when a state needs assistance. So they really divided into what they thought would be most helpful to states to help them get up and running. Taking some of those best practices from the states that were already doing it really well and putting together guidance. We have guidebooks, we have trainings, all the great stuff to help, not have to reinvent the wheel if your state was looking to start engaging in this work.
Got it. Wow. All right. Well, I've learned way more than I can honestly say. No, I mean that sincerely. I really learned a lot. I'm not quite sure. I knew that I'd have a good time today, but I don't know that I really was prepared for how much I understand and learn about this whole process. Now, before I let you go, one of the questions that we always like to ask is there anything that we should have asked you that we didn't ask that you absolutely want to make sure our listeners know?
Well, I'll let Hank, you go first.
Yeah, because you can tell I'm like anxious to get this out, right? So one of the secrets of the DWG is that we have a team of presenters. These are presenters. They're polished presenters, and we offer those speakers to any state that wants a speaker to deliver one of these presentations, but doesn't have anyone at the volunteer level, at the state level, that can handle it. So we may get a request from Washington, D.C. saying, hey, we want to do a presentation on brain health. We've got a big demand to do that, but we don't have anybody polished yet to do that. Can you supply someone? And yes, we can. We can do it virtually, and in some cases, some of our speakers are more than willing now to travel to actually do those presentations in person. It's right now, I believe it's 18 members on that team, and they stand ready and anxious to deliver that kind of support whenever it's needed.
Outstanding.
And I will just also add, if your state is looking to engage and get further engaged with the DIY work group and would like trainings would like interstate speakers, as Hank said, just about anything that would need to come our way for training and support in your state can be sent to DIYprograms@aarp.org. And even if you have feedback on how the DIY presentations are going in your state, you can send that to DIYprograms@aarp.org, because both Turnkey Programs and the DWG monitor that inbox for training requests and content suggestions. So again, just last time, DIYprograms@aarp.org.
Excellent. Thank you both so very, very much. As I said, this has been highly educational, and for me, genuinely, just a lot of fun. I'm so happy to meet the two of you. And I will look forward to being in touch with you both again, collaborating on more activities like this. Please continue to help us get the word out about the Roost News, because I'm sure the volunteers who will listen to this will be excited about all that is available for us to do. I think I've covered everything. Again, just thank you both very much for what you have done to help with moving volunteer efforts forward and for educating our population, in a really good way, almost a seamless way. Any final thoughts or?
I just want to thank the Roost News and you, Constance, for inviting us. It's such a pleasure. I hope you can tell this is definitely a passion for Hank and I, and we collaborate, and I am so thankful to have Hank as my volunteer partner on the DIY work group. But we're always happy to share the news and updates, and we really appreciate the opportunity. Hank, anything on your end as a closing thought?
No, just again, I share the thanks with Cristina and echo my pleasure in working with this superstar, Cristina. It is great, and yes, and we're anxious to do more. So reach out to us.
Indeed. Well, you all heard it. Reach out to DIY Work Group, DWG. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.